Karen first entered public life as an advocate for public schools, then ran for and was elected to the City Council in 1975. By 1983, she'd been elected president of the City Council, and later that year, she launched her bid to become mayor. Her upset victory as the first elected Democratic mayor in Schenectady in more than 20 years was also a milestone for women in the capital region. Karen was the first woman elected mayor in the region and throughout upstate New York. Karen got involved in politics to make a difference in her community and for its residents. She focused on making connections, listening to her constituents, and doing what's right. She wanted to improve governance and rarely let politics get in the way of helping people. Her favorite part of campaigning was simply meeting and listening to people, making meaningful connections, find out the best ways to lift up everyone.
Our campaigns were sort of sporting events, really. We didn't have a lot of money to run a big, expensive campaign, so we campaigned door to door. And what we did to try and make that efficient was all four of us would be on the same street at the same time. And we'd have a banner in the street, we'd have noise off speakers, and we had literature. And Karen was a great campaigner. We used to call her Banzai. So what we would do, we had people who went out in front of us who got people on the porches, so we didn't have to use our time that way. So if we saw somebody on a porch, one of the candidates would go there representing all four. Usually Karen would join us. Banzai! She'd come up on the porch and she just loved it. It was a great experience and it was fun. We went to every street in the city of Schenectady. Took us 6 months.
Just as the bulldozer is a symbol, so too are these vacant buildings. Their emptiness symbolizes the empty promises and policies of the present council majority and their failure to provide any direction to downtown redevelopment. These empty storefronts and vacant lots speak for themselves. They represent thousands of dollars of potential tax revenue no longer available to city and county government. Who would ever bring a visitor to our downtown in these days?
As a leader, Karen's style was about teamwork and community building. She focused on solving problems and making necessary but tough decisions. She tackled difficult issues in Schenectady, including GE downsizing, tax base erosion, stabilizing, and then rebuilding downtown Schenectady, investing in infrastructure and improving the lives of all residents, especially youth, elders, and other vulnerable community groups. After her tenure in city government, she went on to serve on the Schenectady County Legislature, where she continued to advocate for the people of her community.
It didn't make any difference what station of life they were, how wealthy they were or not, and what age they were. She just had this wonderful way of talking to people.
She's actually a very entertaining woman, eloquent. She's humble. She actually didn't come off as someone who was, mighty and powerful, but she came off as someone who was willing to help and assist and to guide me through the process and being there on the legislature.
The first time that Karen impacted me and my community was when I was a teenager, when she was the mayor of Schenectady. My friends and I would go to Central Park every day during the summertime. And we were teenagers, so we were fishing, and the park at that time was a mess. One of Karen's major initiatives at that time was to clean the park. And it was really our first civics lesson as teenagers as to how politicians and a community can come together and really help everyone in the community, including us. When I met her years later, I told her that story, and she laughed. She said, "That's what we're supposed to do."
I feel fortunate to have had known her, learned from her, and able to carry on the tradition of strong leadership within the city of Schenectady.
Karen was the first woman on the city council. I was the second. And I've also just recently been appointed to her legislative seat on the county legislature. In many ways, for me, she was a role model. But I also really valued her commitment to the community.
My best memory of Karen is her ability to get people who disagree to come together and agree and support things. She had a tremendous gift. She could get people to come together around controversy and agree to move forward. And then she would say, "Look what you did. Look what you did. Not look what I did." It was always about the people.
We served on the Schenectady County Legislature together, and I recall being a freshman legislator. Back in the early days, one of the younger members of the legislature at the time, and she fought for me to be able to chair a committee because it was a committee of interest to me with regard to tourism and parks. And she was up against some pretty stiff competition. Her party was surrounding her and encouraging that all of the chairs be from one side of the aisle and not the other. And Karen made a case for me, and I will never forget that. She and I had a conversation afterward, and she said it's really about ensuring that we have leadership that's passionate, that cares about getting the job done. And she said, you get things done.
I really do a lot of the things I do because I enjoy them. I take a great deal of meaning from them, and it makes my life richer.